And we're going to start with prayer because this obviously is a presentation that Satan isn't liking. And so, but we're not going to let him have the advantage. We're just going to press on, and this is going to be one of the best presentations. All right? So let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are blessed to be here. And when there are challenges before us, we just don't look back and don't be distracted by them. We just press through. We ask for your Holy Spirit and your holy angels to be here with us as we present and attempt to present your prescribed method of healing sickness and disease. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. We've been Seventh-day Adventists for 20 years. And before that, we, when the children had a fever, I gave them Tylenol. And if they had any other health problem, if they were having respiratory issues or allergy issues, we did antihistamines. And so we treated health conditions traditionally, the traditional way with drugs. And drugs, I learned along the way that they don't usually help the problem. They compound the problem. They make it worse. It says, many, instead of seeking to remove poisonous matter from the system, take a more deadly poison into the system to remove a poison already there. So drugs never cure disease. What did that say? Never. That's a pretty profound statement, isn't it? Doesn't say sometimes or rarely. It says never. Never cure disease. Because they're not the cause of the disease. They usually mask it. Like if you're feeling intense pain, you can take a narcotic and you don't feel the pain anymore. Did it take away the cause of the pain or just cover it up in your brain so you don't feel it? It just covers it up. It tricks your brain into thinking that the pain's not there and you act as if it isn't. And sometimes that's not necessarily good. They only change its form and location. So we don't want to teach you how to do that. Everybody knows how to do that. So we're going to teach you some of God's natural ways of healing disease and reversing things. And when we came into the church, we were really excited to learn some of these things, but we didn't, we waited until we got sick in order to try to use them. I can't see you through that flower. We waited until we got sick to try to implement them. And did it ever work, Laura?
Well, the basic key that we learned is you have to start it right away. So if you're using natural remedies, you can't wait until the sickness has you. As soon as you start feeling like you're coming down with something, that's when you need to start using them.
Like for me, I usually get this drainage in the back of my throat and I start clearing my throat more. You know, I'm like, wow, I'm coming down with something. But I was also speaking in mind of that it helps learn how to do and make these poultices and to do the hydrotherapy, practice it before you need it. Go to presentations like this so you learn it so that when you're in the thrust of a respiratory condition that you know how to do a hot fomentation. Or if you have inflammation and you've injured yourself, you know what to do with a head of cabbage and you've got cabbage in the refrigerator. If you don't know, you're not going to be able to do it as easily, and then you're going to resort back to the drugs, which you don't want to do anymore. So hopefully we'll give you some advice and tips and skill in doing this. Welcome. And it'll be easier. This presentation isn't nearly long enough to do all that we want to do. So if we come back another time, we'll do more. Come right on in. Sit down.
We all get to be children again.
We're going back to our youth, and we're being very, very flexible. Yeah.
So there's a couple examples that we have in the Bible of God actually prescribing or using natural remedies. How many of you guys can think of any of them? I know two offhand. How many of you can think of a time when God actually prescribed the use of a poultice? Yes? Yeah, that's true. So that's found in John chapter 9. There was a man who was blind. Jesus went and he used some clay, put it on the man's eyes, and when the
Very
man
good.
washed it off, he could see. Okay, can you think of another time when somebody was sick and God commanded them to use a poultice of some sort? I heard a Somebody raise their hand.
Yes.
Hezekiah. Yes, you remember what type of poultice it was? It was a fake poultice. He was dying and he was very sick and he had boils and he was told that he was going to die and he pled with God for time and for mercy.
Come right on in, have a seat right up front.
And in 2 Kings chapter 20, God suggested and told them to go get a bunch of figs and make a poultice and he would be healed. And was he healed? He was. So we have examples in the Bible of God using natural means or natural remedies for healing. We also have a quote that is taken from Child Guidance that says, every person, how many people do we have in this room? Raise your hand if you're a person. I think I should see every hand going up. So does this include us? It does. Every person should have a knowledge of nature's remedial agencies and how to apply them. It is essential both to understand the principles involved in the treatment of the sick and to have a practical training that will enable one rightly to use this knowledge. So, what knowledge are we supposed to all have a knowledge of?
Natural remedies.
How to do natural remedies.
And it said that it was essential, not a good idea, right? Essential.
It was essential. And so we have examples in the Bible, we have examples in Spirit of Prophecy of when people would actually use natural remedies. Now, what are some of the natural remedies that you can think of that we are counseled to use? Garlic, okay.
Olive oil.
Olive oil, honey.
Water.
Water. Okay. What are the health laws that we normally think of? Water. Air, exercise. Sunshine. I just read something today that sunshine should be man's best friend. Does it look like I've been trying to get sun?
No.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my vitamin D when I actually come to a place that I can get it. And yeah, sometimes when you're not used to the sun's intensity and you go out in the middle of the day, you can show that you...
And you're as white as we are.
Yeah. We were only out for an hour today, but the reflection off of the ocean just kind of magnifies the sunshine. So there's a quote that says, there are many ways of practicing the healing art, but there is one way that heaven approves. God's remedies are the simple agencies of nature that will not tax or debilitate the system through their powerful properties. Pure air and water, cleanliness, a proper diet, purity of life, and a firm trust in God are remedies for the want of which thousands are dying. Yet these remedies are going out of date because their skillful use requires work that the people do not appreciate. It's a lot easier oftentimes to pop a pill than it is to actually do the work of doing the natural remedies. Short term, not long term. So then it says, fresh air, exercise, pure water, and clean, sweet premises are within the reach of all with but little expense. So we have a list of some of the things that she describes are God's doctors or God's remedies, which sunshine, fresh air, we have exercise, water, those types of things are God's remedies that He's given us to help us to be healthy. Where you want?
Do the the clean environment
Yep.
as well. And what we've been enjoying here is we're seemingly having a hard time getting a lot of the fresh air in the city because we're from the country and we have as many trees as you all have people. And so we've been enjoying going to the ocean in Boca Raton. And we walked way down, we're a little strange. Actually, people, we dress kind of like this when we go to the ocean. And we had a gentleman tell us that we just don't fit in there. And that's okay. When we go way down to the south of that beach there, and there's usually not any people there. And we just sit there and we look out at the ocean and we collect all these shells.
She does it from a safe distance. Nalani and I end up soaked almost every time because we're trying to get the shells.
And the fresh air just coming in off the ocean is so therapeutic. We saw lots of fish today in the ocean. And we collected a lot of shells since we've been here. And we're noticing that there's certain kinds of shells, but there are a lot of different kinds of shells. And you know what? It reminded me today that there are a lot of different people. But we're still all people. We're still all God's children. So we're alike, but we're just a little bit different in how we look on the outside. And so I was thinking about that today with the shells. So we're going to start with, we're going to start with an ice rub because the ice will melt here. And so we're wanting a volunteer. We have, okay. Does anybody have an achy wrist or arm here or upper arm here? Does anybody have any aches on your shoulder? Well, it'll get kind of wet.
I have an achy wrist.
Pardon me?
Yes.
You have an achy wrist?
Yeah.
Well, come right on up here. And I'm going to put you on this floor. Isn't this just amazing? You all have the best attitude. We're in a little children's room in children's seats, and everybody's smiling. Isn't that nice? You can sit right here. We'll just put this on your lap. It'll protect you from getting. Now, since these are God's ordained methods of healing, we always pray with the individual before we begin. Is that thunder?
No.
Oh,
They're cleaning.
all right. Well, that's great. Okay. This is a little larger glass than we normally use. We normally use those little 4-ounce ones and the little Dixie ones that are paper. And then you can fill the paper cups up and you can put them in your freezer. And then you have them when you have a need for them right away. Because if you make it when you have the need, then you end up waiting for quite some time. I want to share with you that with this autoimmune condition that I have, sometimes I break out in really strange rashes. And I don't know what brings them on, but I know what will help them. I do an ice rub on the rash, because if I touch it, it spreads like crazy. And it's painful. It's like a shingle. Anybody ever have shingles in here? Okay, well, it's a painful rash. It's not just an itchy rash. And if I have one dot on me, it's painful. It looks pathetic, like I'm the biggest wimp that there is, but it's very painful.
Sometimes you can't even really see anything.
No, but if I rub ice on it, it takes all the pain away. And how it works is that it numbs the nerve endings. And so it relieves the
pain.
the sensation.
So
And it helps with inflammation. Now your wrist is where it's hurting you, right? Or right in
Okay,
here. Okay.
normally, when you do cold,
Just wait a second.
what happens, if you put your hand in a really cold bucket of water, what happens to the, I don't know if this happens to you. So if you're white and you put your hand in a cold bucket of water, what happens to the color of your skin? It gets white and then it gets red. But at first it gets white. If we put our hands in if you're lighter, if you put your hands in a hot bucket of water, what happens to the color? It gets red. Because when it gets white, because the cold pushes all the blood away. And if you put it in heat, it gets red because it's bringing all the blood there. So initially what happens with an ice massage, you'll rub it on, and what does ice feel like? Is it cold or hot? Cold. Cold. So you put it on, and initially it'll start pushing the blood away.
Can we pray first? I'll be doing this while you're
Did you
chatting.
already pray?
No, we didn't pray. Did we pray?
No.
No, we didn't. Okay, all right. I may have forgotten. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you grateful for your natural remedies. I thank you so much for water and ice and the treating of disease is free, and it is from you. And so I ask for this ice massage to help relieve the pain and to heal and restore health. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
You always want to let them know what they're going to be experiencing. So we're going to let you know.
Start by just feeling cold.
There's 4 stages. There's the cold, which is common sense. And then you have the burning sensation where it starts feeling prickly and like it's burning. And then you have where it might feel like it's aching. And then you have numbness. So what you're doing when you're doing an ice massage, so first it pushes the blood away. And then as you continue doing it and you constantly rub in circles, as you see, she's not staying in one spot because that can cause damage. You want to constantly go around the area. and then it'll actually bring more blood flow to the area, and then you'll have this numb feeling. Now, depending on what you're doing it for, will determine how long you do this. Now, for me, what I told a story last Sabbath in the sermon, how I had jumped off a bridge and broke my back in 2 places. This is what they did for me every day, 2 times a day for a month, only we didn't know where in my back my injury was. So I called them torture treatments because I went down and I would get an ice massage from here to here. My whole entire back, my teacher from UT Pines would do this too. And you know, you can handle it on your wrist a lot easier than you can over that large of an area because she's constantly going round and round. I was just like, but you know what? Praise the Lord, I'm pretty much fine. So basically, what would you do this for? Local swelling, inflammation, pain, spasms. If you had an injury, for the first 24 hours after any injury, only use ice. You don't want to use heat. Only ice. So if you have muscle spasms, back pain, neck pain, any type of joint pain, or if you have a deep tissue massage and it was a bit much, you can do this as well. I'm a massage therapist and I don't get massages very often, but I needed some work done. So I was out at Eden Valley because they were talking to us about moving out there, and I would be running the massage department. And I knew the person who was there, and I said, can you please work on my arm? Because actually it was this size. This shoulder's really bad. And I know what to do, but I can't quite do it myself. So she worked from here to here for an hour. And I kept telling myself, just tell her to move because it's too much. But I thought, no, I'll be tough. I couldn't do anything with this arm for the next 2 weeks because she had so damaged the area from doing too much on one area. So ice really helps with those types of things as well. Ice is really good for any type of injury. I got sick once and I was coughing and coughing and coughing. And I was actually at Eden Valley as well several years earlier. And I was walking across the field and I coughed and it sent me to the ground. I had dislocated several ribs,
Right on in, have a seat.
torn some intercostal muscles, and I could barely move. If you realize, a lot of times we learn these remedies because we end up having issues. And so they did this on me. I couldn't even barely breathe without pain. They did an ice massage on my ribs, and my pain was completely gone. And I don't know if any of you have had rib injuries, but they're pretty painful, especially since your ribs move every time you breathe. So ice massage is very, very good. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't like the cold. But in the long term, it actually helps with a lot of healing and a lot of quickening and advancing the healing process.
Our dear brother here does have an injury. I can see he's got some inflammation in the back of his hand, and the pain is generating in the wrist and up back further. And so this should be a good treatment. You can do this 2 to 3 times a day, but you really want to rest this, and then eventually you can, and this happened way back with the hurricane when you were putting up shutters and then preparing for that and then taking them down. And then eventually you can do hot and cold contrast. You want to bring the blood to the area to help bring more oxygen in to help take away toxins. Now, what stage does it feel like? Does it feel like it's burning?
It's burning.
Burning.
Okay, so he's moved from the it's just cold to the burning stage. Now after you do ice for 24 to 48 hours, then you can do the alternating of hot and cold. But you don't do ice and then heat. You have a bucket kind of like this of hot water and a bucket like that of ice water. And then you will do 3 minutes in hot and then put it 30 seconds in cold. You start with the hot, end with the cold, do 3 rotations back and forth. I did this in Barbados. I went and taught a training program there. And I had everybody do it. We had 108 students, and we did a month-long program. And we wanted to do it all hands-on, which was a lot of fun. And so, yes.
3 minutes in hot.
3 minutes in hot, 30 seconds in cold. And you'll want to make sure that you keep getting the hotter, because you'll be able to endure hotter water. So I had chunks of ice, and I had hot boiling water in 2 buckets, and they each got to share. I had 5 people use each bucket, and they did it on their hands. And it was so hilarious. I wish somebody would have been videotaping it. Their squeals when they went in the hot and their screams when they went in the cold. And I'm like, man, you guys are just really verbal. And they're like, Laura, you need to feel this ice water. And I don't know who did their ice water. It wasn't me, because I just had like lukewarm water in both, because I was talking and just going back and forth with them. I went and touched their cold water. Man, that stuff burned. It was like as much ice as you could put with very, very minimal water. I was like, well, that's really cool. But I had one lady come up to me afterwards, and she said, you know, I've had arthritis in my thumb for like years. And it was very painful to use, and it was really hard. She said, but after that extreme treatment, I have no pain and I can move it easily.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this ice rock, and I ask for that you do what you have to take in hand. And I thank you for our dear brother. In Jesus' name I pray.
And it's amazing how something so simple as ice can actually help. Now generally, what we'll do, if it's an intense injury, I'll go 2 minutes after you get to numbness. So after it feels numb, continue doing it for another 2 minutes. And then you can see how it responds after that. And as my mom mentioned, you can do that about 2 to 3 times a day, and that will help. Do you want to do the...
Let's do the cabbage right now.
Want to do the cabbage?
Because I need water to melt. I need more water.
Okay.
I need the hot
Oh,
water.
there's a water right over here in the sink. Okay?
For the
Trust me.
Okay, how many in the room have done ice rock?
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Usually, they use the styrofoam cup. I know the styrofoam cup is good for heat, but is it bad for cold too? Because if you freeze it, usually you just cut off the bottom and you allow it to stay.
Right,
Is
we
it bad?
encourage people to use paper.
we use paper.
We use paper because you can tear off the bottom or tear off the top around, and then you have the bottom of the paper towel. We didn't have any today, and rather than buying more paper cups, we just decided to use these. But styrofoam has a lot of chemicals in it.
Okay.
Plastic has a lot of chemicals too. I think styrofoam is a little more toxic. And so we always encourage people to use paper. And if you don't have any cups, just use this and just put paper towel on it and rub it.
They are done over there, and since we have more people coming, we're just going to take a little break and very quickly move over there.
You guys have been great though. I actually like the light in here.
Can you guys wait for just a second? I'm gonna take a picture of all of you. All right. Everybody smile. There you go.
This is
Okay,
our
children, you guys
kindergarten
need to
class.
get in there. Ready? Everybody smile. Thank you.
Here, cabbage poultice, your back. And your knee. Excellent. Thank you. And the cabbage comes from the cruciferous fruit, vegetable, right? And Jesus died on the cross and he was crucified for us, right? It's just amazing what happened, isn't it? And the best way to get the best effect from the cabbage, I'm going to make a small one because you can put this on your wrist too. Okay, you didn't know what you were up for when you volunteered. So you have to beat it. Release the healing elements in the juice from the veins of the cabbage leaf. Oh. Can you all hear me without this? Yeah. We McKinley girls, we project our voice. So you beat it and you beat it, and then you roll it, and you can hear it breaking. Is there anybody else here that has a joint issue, an elbow or a knee that they'd like to have me prepare a cabbage poultice for them? Yes? Where is your injury? On your elbow? Okay, very good.
There's another in the box. If you have more.
Why don't we just do
what they do, how you use them, instructions, and what you need in order to make the poultice. And so it's just really simple to go through, and we're not demonstrating all of the ones that we're doing here tonight. And then just different things that you can do with them. And then in the back, what condition you might have, and then what type of poultice you can use for that condition. So it's a nice handy little thing that you can look back and say, oh, I have an ear ache. What can I do for it? Oh, I should make an onion poultice. And so then you can go back to where the onion poultice is, and you can find out how to make one and how you would use it. And it actually says for earaches, this is what you do. So it's a helpful little thing to know when you have anything going on or any aches or pains, what to do with it.
There you go. Okay, exhibit A.
That's cheesecloth.
It's cheesecloth, yeah. Tomorrow night he's going to tell us that he's good as new. Well, I make this other one where you can start. You want to start with the charcoal and the cinnamon?
I'll let you do
And see how this is kind of cupped like this? This other brother has an injury on his elbow, so we're going to do one that kind of fits the joint. Is it?
That's really easy. Sorry. I'm looking for. How many of you guys have ever used a potato poultice? Oh, how long do you leave it on there for? You can leave it on for a couple hours. Right, Mom?
You can leave it on all night.
You can leave it on all night, but the main potency is generally within a couple hours. How many of you have ever made a potato poultice? Anybody ever made one?
Not sure if it was done right, but I have.
Okay. I like potato poultices. The first time I was ever introduced to a potato poultice, we went and spent some time with a dear friend of ours and their family. Actually, while we were going to a natural remedies class, and she had a boil. She was pregnant, and she had a big boil underneath her arm. And it was MRSA. She had MRSA in the boil, which is a strand of bacteria that's resistant to antibiotics.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, very scary. And we asked Dr. Thrash what she would suggest doing with a boil. And she said, put a potato poultice on it. And she actually made it very, very simple. Cut the potato in half and just a slice and put it on the boil and wrap it around. And it'll actually draw the boil out. I thought, well, that's pretty simple and easy. I mean, how much more simple can you get than slicing a potato and just putting it on there? And it worked. Oh, wow. That's a pretty easy remedy for a boil. And so that was my first introduction to potato poultices. Potato poultices are very, very easy to make. What you can use them for is also swollen areas, sprained ankles, tender areas of the body, conjunctivitis, and sunburn. My story that I had to deal with is I don't know if I've ever used potato poultices. Well, no, I tried. But I was teaching this class. I taught a week-long classes at Michigan Conference Youth Tent. They asked me to come in and do hydrotherapy, natural remedies, and some health classes. And so I also did interactive classes with them, and we did poultices together, and I taught all the teenagers how to make poultices. And oh boy, did they have fun. And they had actually just gone kayaking for the day, and they came back, and their first and only class for the whole day was my class, which was what they thought was their most fun class of the day, because I got them interactive with all of our natural remedies. And the girls came back fried. And you just looked at them and they looked like lobsters. And I was like, girls, what did you do? They said, oh, Laura, we were so burned and it hurts so bad. And I said, well, the good thing we're doing the class that we're doing today, we're doing poultices. And so what we did is we took potatoes, and I actually had some girls that had stayed behind, and they helped me grate about 20 potatoes. And we had big bowls like this full of grated potatoes because I wanted all the kids to be able to make potato poultices and to be able to use them on themselves if they wanted to. And it's very, very easy. All you do is grate the potato, wrap it up in cheesecloth, and put it on. Simple. Very, very simple. So my kids, I had them doing this, and I had one girl who both of her arms were just fried.
Just a minute. Didn't you say that they had burns?
They did.
And the potato poultice work really well?
Yes.
Do you think she should use this tonight?
And so what they did is, as they were my experiments, they thought, Laura, we're going to see if this really works. So with one arm, they did nothing. And the other arm, they layered the potato poultices on, like one after the other. I'm like, man, they put a t-shirt on over the top, and I was like, they look like they've been working out pretty strong. But just on that one side. So her arm was covered in potato. Then I had another girl who, she came up to me, and she had been wearing shorts, and her legs were just fried. And I said, oh, dearie. I said, go sit down on the grass, and I'm going to cover your legs with potatoes, with the grated up potatoes. Now, potato is very cool, so it brings a nice sense of relief, and it also brings a cooling agent and helps to draw out the heat. You can use potatoes also for bringing out...
This is a little grated potato, simple little grater.
You can also use potatoes for drawing out slivers, splinters. It's very high in phosphorus and potassium, so it actually puts nutrients in the body for healing as well as drawing out the bad things like you would use for boils. So I coated her legs in just the raw potato and had her sit there while I finished the rest of the class. And she's like, Laura, can I sit here for a while? This is actually feeling really good. I said, sit there as long as your little heart desires. And so she sat there for probably about an hour to an hour and a half talking to all of her friends as they were amused at the fact of how long was she going to sit there with these potatoes just on her legs. Well, the next day, the kids all came back to class, and the girl who had done one on one arm and nothing on the other arm, the arm where she had put the potato poultices was perfect. No burn, no sign of anything. The other arm was like peeling and blistering. It was so bad of a burn. The girl who had done it on her legs, you could tell exactly where the potato had been because there were lines, and it was totally white and fine, just a little bit of tan where the potato had been and where the potato was not. You could tell because it was still burnt. And I thought that is a pretty cool thing. So the potato poultices really do work for sunburns. I still will have my youth contact me after, like throughout the year, and be like, Miss Laura, we use the cabbage poultice, we use the potato poultice, we use the poultices that you taught us. And that is one really nice thing that I like about the poultices, is they're quick, they're easy, and they work. They're not very expensive, they're not very complicated to do, they don't take a lot of time, and they work very well. Yes?
Suppose you don't have a cheesecloth, can you substitute?
You can use a paper towel. I can't tell you how many times I've had to use paper towel because I didn't have cheesecloth. So just use paper towel.
I suggest that you get cheesecloth to have on get a natural remedy bag ready. And in your natural remedy bag, have your grater, have your cheesecloth,
We have
your
fallen
psyllium,
ginger.
charcoal, and knife. Just have things that you need. And then I personally prefer the cheesecloth for some of these because it's the moisture in the food that helps the healing, and you get more moisture. Giselle.
And the cheesecloth is inexpensive. You can find it at Publix for like $2.
It really is inexpensive. And just get it and have
In
it.
the cleaning aisle.
Have it on hand.
And then-
I'm gonna pass this around so y'all can look.
And what you want to make sure that you do, because this one is pretty moist, you want to make sure that you cover it with plastic on the other side. I mean, obviously you don't want the barrier between your skin and it, but on top of the poultice, so you have your skin, the poultice, then you put plastic, and then you wrap something around. Because if you don't have plastic all the way around it, it'll stain whatever it touches.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that you have a barrier between
And if
the
the
poultice
someone that has
and that.
a need for this, we can apply it. You can take it from me and you can pass it all the way around. So everybody
Yes,
can
dear.
get a look at it. No. You use saran wrap. Plastic
That's the
wrap.
ginger
That's
one.
just so you can pass it and not get it on you.
The next one we're going to go over is the ginger poultice. And Nalani and I have some interesting stories with this one. And so does my mom, but she didn't get stories until much after Nalani and I got stories with this one. How many of you have ever heard of using a ginger poultice? Anybody? Ginger is very, very high in anti-inflammatory agents. Now, we do not use ginger internally because it is an irritant, but we will use it medicinally, and we will use it externally. And so with the ginger, what you do is you also do the same thing. You'll notice the poultices, you grate and put on a cheesecloth.
Grater.
Use the smaller grater because you want to get more of the juice out. Now, This is really good for anything where there's inflammation. If you put the ginger poultice on an area that is not inflamed, it will do nothing. If you put it on an area,
You will feel no heat.
yeah, you will feel no
If you
heat.
put it on an area where you have inflammation, you will feel heat.
You'll feel heat. And Nalani, can you come up and share your story? Come on up here. Come here. She has the most dramatic story of all of us. So when we first learned about this poultice with the ginger poultice, we were told it does not burn.
How many of you know Barbara O'Neill? Raise your hand.
Okay, she's a friend of ours.
Barbara O'Neill's a friend of ours. She says it will not burn.
And so my mom was just insistent that it will not burn. So what did she do what happened to you, Nalani?
Well, I got sick one time, and my lymph nodes swelled here and here. So my mom was trying to get the inflammation to swell down. So she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a ginger poultice." And so just by the way, don't ever put it without a barrier between your skin, or if you're a kid like me, will be screaming in pain.
This is actually one that I would use paper towel and not cheesecloth.
My mom put it straight onto my skin,
Because
and
it wouldn't
bandaged
burn.
it around, and she's like, "Oh, it's not gonna burn." And I was screaming and screaming, and I was like, 10, something. And it was really bad. And my mom was like, "Oh no, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't burn. Barbara O'Neill doesn't say that." And
But it feels hot.
I think I actually put myself to sleep because I was so exhausted.
So I used it because I actually, when I was in Norway, not only did I break my back, but I was running down a mountain. You guys don't have mountains here. But I was running down a mountain and there was a layer of snow, a layer of ice, a layer of snow, and a layer of ice. And my foot went down through the layer of snow, down through one layer of ice, and my body kept going and my foot kind of got stuck. And so I slid, twisted my leg, and fell down. It didn't feel too bad at the time, and I just kind of slid down the mountain afterwards. And the next morning, I got up to get out of bed, and I fell over because my knee wouldn't hold myself. I thought, man, what did I do to myself? So I actually ended up injuring my knees over there. And I thought, oh, these ginger poultices, she says it'll draw out the inflammation, and my knees still actually hurt worse than my back does. My knees will sometimes hurt from that injury. So I'm going to use these ginger poultices. And so I put the ginger, and I'm like, Mom, make them big. I really want to help my knees because they were just burning. And so I put them on my knees, and I put the ace bandages around, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel bad, Nalani. It's not that bad. It's just kind of cool. And then you wait maybe like 60 seconds, if that, and then it starts feeling warm, and then it starts feeling warmer. And then I got to the point where I was not screaming because I'm a little older. But it felt like my knees were in a fire and they would not get taken out. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. There was so much inflammation and it reacts so strongly that I would have to take the poultice off and put some air on the area to let it kind of mellow down. So my advice to you, it works, but don't torture yourself through it. We had one lady who she came to our poultice class. This was before we had used them that much. We always like to try everything before we give them to anybody else. And she had a suitcase full on her ankle, and her ankle was huge. So we made a ginger poultice up for her. She put it on, kept it on all night long, and she woke up and the swelling was completely gone, and she came back totally pain-free and swelling was gone. Oh, wow, this is really cool. But I will advise you, make sure that it's not too thick. You don't want it directly on your skin. Make sure there's a paper towel layer between the juice and you. And if it starts to burn, give some air to the area. And also, do not ever get into the shower after you take off a ginger poultice, because it will burn like crazy. It is amazing at taking out inflammation, because what it does is what's burning is actually the inflammation in your body. And that's why it's burning, because I tried it. I thought, this is terrible. So I tried putting it on a part of my body that I knew did not have any inflammation, and I didn't feel any burn. And so that let me know my body's really reacting to the ginger because the burning is so intense.
Okay, now we're going to move on to the onion poultice. And the Nalani has experienced the onion poultice too. Nalani, how do we use the onion poultice with you, Nalani? What do you have?
When I have asthma, they put it on my chest.
Yeah,
They used to.
yeah.
And another really wonderful thing that you can do for asthma is if you have a cold, anything respiratory, slice up a whole bunch of onion, put it in a quart jar, and sleep with your head next to it. The onion, what it does is it actually, you know what makes you cry? Does anybody cry when they cut onions? I do not do onions well. You would think I was sobbing if anybody cuts onions around me. So I will cut onions under cold water, and it doesn't do anything. So if anybody else has a problem that I do, cut it under really cold water, and you'll be fine. The other night, my mom and Sister Giselle were slicing onions, and it was time for us to go to bed. And I literally could not close my eyes because the onions were burned so bad. And I was just like, I had tears streaming down my face. And I looked like I had been like in a really emotional time in my life because I was just sobbing because of it. But it actually, what it does is it clears out your sinuses. And it clears out those cavities in your tear ducts. So it's very healthy for you, even though it's not the most comfortable feeling in the world. But onions are amazing. They absorb toxins. So if you make an onion poultice and you have a respiratory anything, you can put it on your chest. You can put it up here on your throat. We used to know people who, whenever they had a cold, they'd wrap sliced onions all around their throat, go to bed, wake up, and they were feeling better.
Now, one of the other things we do for respiratory with onions is pretend this is a quart jar, a glass quart jar. You slice and chop up your onions, put them in the jar. Can you move it just a little way? Thank you. Then we take raw honey and we take a couple tablespoons of it and drizzle it over the onion. Put it next to the bedside table and let them breathe that. And then in a few hours, the honey goes down, mixes with the juice of the lemon, and you have a cough medicine. Yeah.
You do not want to, one thing with onions are very good at absorbing toxins.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So if you put them on you, they will absorb toxins. If they go inside of you, they will help to absorb the toxins. If you chop onions and put them in your fridge, they will absorb all the toxins of the refrigerator. If you put them in plastic, they will absorb all the toxins in the plastic. So onions are very good for absorbing toxins, but you don't want to eat them after they go absorb the toxins. Does that make sense? So only slice as much of the onion as you're going to eat.
And
If you-
slice it, cut it in half, leave the peeling on it, put it on a glass plate, a small one, face down like this, and then put it in the refrigerator or freezer. And actually I have some Pyrex glass bowls, a glass top and a glass bottom, put it in there and then put it in the fridge. But I wouldn't ever leave an onion for more than a day. And because it is absorbing all the toxins and we want to detox, not add toxins, right?
Another really nice thing about onions is using it for earaches. Has anybody ever had an earache? Okay, I grew up having a lot of ear infections, and until we stopped eating dairy, and then my ear infections went away. If any of you know any children who have ear infection issues, cut out dairy, and 90% of the time the ear infections will be gone. But there was one time where, because my ears are now my weak spot, because I grew up until I was about 12 having ear infections back to back to back to back. Whenever I'm not feeling well, my ears get affected. So this one time I was having a really, really bad ear pain. It wasn't infected yet, but there was a lot of pain. And so I called a friend of mine who I go to whenever I've exhausted all of my natural remedy knowledge. I called him or his dad, and I said, what in the world do I do? And he said, Laura, go bake an onion. Get an onion, put it in a glass container, put it in the oven or put it in the microwave, and bake it until the juice is coming out of it. And make sure it's really soft and really juicy, and then take it out of there, slice it in half, and put the steamy onion over your ear. Obviously, it can't burn your ear, but have it to where you have something between your hand and that, and then hold it over your ear. And let me tell you, that pain was excruciating, and as soon as the steam from the onion hit the inside of my ear, my pain was gone. And what you can also do is you can take a couple drops of the onion juice. Obviously, you want to make sure it's not boiling hot, and put that in your ear as well, and that takes care of the pain. And as soon as my ear would start to hurt again, I would make sure that it was warm, and I would put it over my ear, and the pain was gone. It's just absolutely amazing how well God's remedies actually work.
Now we're going to move on to garlic. Nalani, you have a lot of experience with garlic as a natural remedy, don't you? So why don't you share with us what we do with the garlic?
So when I start to get sick, or when I'm sick or I have asthma attacks, we put a whole bulb of
Now
garlic.
this is a huge bulb. You grow a big garlic down here in Florida. Our bulbs are about half this size. So we want not a clove, but generally for an adult, a bulb of garlic.
And then put the cloves in a garlic press and put it into water. You don't want to fill the whole bath up, but fill the bath up a few inches.
About a quarter full.
And then leave it there and let it sit for 20 minutes. And then after that, fill the bathtub up to,
Full, to the desired temperature that you want it.
and then you sit in there for about 45 minutes to an hour. And that really helps. Sometimes it just knocks the cold out. And like one time, I think we were at ASCI or GYC or something, and I got sick, and we did that, and I was better like the next day.
Right.
Because-
Now what is it in the garlic, Nalani, that turns it around?
Do you remember the component that's in the garlic that is medicinal? It's called allicin.
It's a natural antibiotic. When you grate a bulb of it and put it in the bathtub, do you think that's a big jolt of antibiotic? Yes.
They say about 4 cloves is an average dose of antibiotics. So 4 cloves, and you can't just swallow it. You need to crush it to get the allicin also to release. And Nalani, what else did we used to do to you when you were really little and you would get a cold?
They would slice the garlic clove up like my mom is doing right now, put it in some cheesecloth or oil first. Oh, I guess they put some olive oil, and then they would wrap it up in cheesecloth, put it on the bottom of my foot, and then wrap that up on my foot,
And she'd go to bed with it.
Within about 5 to 10 seconds of applying the garlic poultice on the bottom of the foot, the sole of the foot, you can smell garlic on the breath. And it absorbs very well. Again, it's the juice of the garlic. And I like cheesecloth, and it's good to have a barrier here again, because if you put too much garlic with no barrier and no oil on it, you'll blister their feet.
So you need to have an oil barrier. So what we would do is we would take the garlic cloves, the slices, and we would coat it in oil. We know people who have put it on their baby's feet without oil, and their babies wake up screaming and their feet are blistered because they're burned from the garlic. You don't want that. So make sure that you have the olive oil barrier. It will not prevent the healing properties. It will just make sure that you get them without getting burnt.
But you put this on at night before they go to bed. And then you put a sock that fits snugly over the garlic and it holds it in place.
And so we would do that with her whenever she wasn't feeling well as well. Yes? Well, what we do is we would take each little slice. Can you open it up for a second so I can grab a slice? Okay. So in here, you'll see this is a slice. I would coat it with a thin layer of olive oil, each individual one.
and then by the morning it would be all dried up.
Yeah, from the heat of her body.
And all of the juice would have gone into her system. Yes?
Can we use the onion also for if they have a cold or something like that? Can we use the onion?
You can use the onion if they have a cold too. I've not heard of using onion.
Use onion on the
Onion
chest
goes on the chest.
and the garlic on the feet.
Yeah. All right. I think the one last thing that we have is the charcoal. One nice thing that I will tell you, I like lemon juice. Are you gonna squeeze it? Okay. I don't know if anybody's ever struggled with sore throats, but if I don't have enough fresh air, or if there's a real dusty area, then I will get a sore throat. And I actually had a sore throat for about a long time. And it would wake me up at night, or it would prevent me from going to sleep. And one remedy that I think my mom learned was that if you squeeze a whole lemon, straight lemon juice, into a cup, I don't demonstrate this in front of people. You squeeze the whole lemon juice into this, and you put a mouthful in your mouth, and you gargle it for as long as you can, generally about 30 seconds. And then you swallow it, and you do that with the whole lemon. So you just keep taking a mouthful and gargling and gargling and gargling and gargling, and swallow it. By the time you're done with it, your sore throat will be gone. It's also very, very healthy for you. Tomorrow we'll be doing the acid-alkaline connection, and I will give you more reasons why lemons are so good for you. But that is probably my easiest, simplest remedy for sore throat. We go to GYC often, and we have a booth, and people come up to us, oh, what do you have for sore throats? And I'm like, go get a lemon, and go juice it, and do this. And they're like, you're not going to sell me anything? I said, no, this works really, really well. Go get a lemon. I guess I should start keeping lemons at our booth to give to people. And they go, and they do it, and they come back and they're like, that worked. I'm like, I know. It works. It's really a simple, easy remedy. God likes to make things simple, doesn't he? He doesn't want to make everything complicated. He likes to make things simple for us to be able to use and say, you know what? There's a lot of things in life that are hard to understand. And yet sometimes God says, you know, I want to make things easy for you. So I'm going to put things around you. And what amazes me about a lot of the oils and the herbs and those things is that what you might have down here might help you. And we'll have our own little variety of an herb or herbal plant up north that can help us in the same way. There's a lot of different options that you can use for different ways of healing.
Yeah, we're going to have to find something else to use when we can't buy lemons. But they can use lemons. You guys grow lemons down here, don't you? Yeah. Is there anyone that has a sore throat here tonight?
All right, Mama, do you want to do the charcoal?
Yeah. If you can get the rest of this out, and then if someone wants it, they can have it. Last but not least, as the remedies. Oh, I'm really late. I really wanted to talk about a few hydro. Well, that's fine. Is that okay? We got to ask the. Is that okay, Pastor? Okay. So charcoal poultice. Oh, not even just charcoal poultice. Do you know if you are toxic and you've had exposure to chemicals? Do you know? Yeah, well, just a bath. You can take a cup of charcoal. You can put it in the bathtub, and I encourage you to put the water in the bathtub first, then measure out the cup, then lean over gently down to the water and pour the charcoal in. I had a friend, as the tub was filling, she did this, and she poured like this, and her whole white bathroom was black. So be careful with putting it in there, but then get in the bathtub and just soak in it. Again, 45 minutes to an hour. It will pull things out, and you will feel so wonderful. Nalani, again, we do a lot of this stuff on Nalani, because whenever she would get sick, we would take a teaspoon of charcoal. We always prefer the powder. You can get it in tablets, and you can get it in capsules, but we only buy it in the powder. You can brush your teeth with this. Do you know that? Yeah, it's wonderful. We went out to lunch yesterday, and I was laying in bed last night, and I don't know about you, Giselle, I had a stomachache. And I was laying there, and I was feeling kind of sick to my stomach, and I thought, oh, I wish I had some charcoal. And we would mix the teaspoon of charcoal in water, and Nalani would drink it. She'd have a little bit here and a little bit there. And when she'd start to get sick, she'd say, I need some charcoal. I need some charcoal.
She actually would start telling us she was sick when she wasn't, because she really liked charcoal.
Yeah, she was a born patient. So, and then for the poultices. How much charcoal?
You do 2 parts charcoal for 1 part for we use psyllium.
Are you talking about to drink?
Yeah.
Or to do the poultice?
Whatever.
Okay, to do the, for drinking, I usually drink a teaspoon of charcoal, but when Laura makes a poultice for me, sometimes I think you give me more, don't you?
When I make a poultice?
No, It's in a 2-cup glass, so it's 16 ounces of water. You stir it because charcoal is thick and you don't want to choke yourself on the charcoal.
And you also want to make sure that you drink a glass of water afterwards because charcoal is binding
Yeah, oh,
and it will
yes.
constipate you. So
Drink
you
lots of water.
want to wash it down with that. And then also, I'm sure, how many of you do not know what charcoal is and how it works?
Everybody knows about charcoal.
Okay, so you all know not to take it around your medications.
Yeah.
And that it can absorb those things. Okay, good.
Okay. Have y'all seen this book by Dr. McKinley? Do y'all know who she is? She's like Agatha Thrash. Dr. Marianne is an amazing woman who worked at Mayo Clinic. And she was really impressed by God. She didn't want to do traditional medicine anymore. So she left Mayo Clinic. She let her license go. She travels around the world and she teaches natural remedies.
She's an amazing woman. I've had the opportunity to work with her a couple times. And she made this book kind of as a partner to Dr. Agatha's book, The Home Remedies. Have any of you heard of that book, The Home Remedies by Dr. Agatha Thrash? Well, Dr. Marianne goes to third world countries. And what she realized is that it was kind of too scientific for them. And so she made this book it's a simplified version of it so that anybody can understand it, anybody can read it, make sense of it, and use it for whatever environment they're in. Because sometimes when you're in a third world country, you don't have all of that and your language isn't as good as what typical Americans are. So this is like the simple way to explain why we use the natural remedies, how they work, and how you can do them.
And it has pictures. How many of you like pictures on how to do things? I like pictures too. Yeah, I liked them when I was little like you, and I like them when I'm big. So here it gives you a table for preparing a charcoal poultice. And then it gives you the treatment schedule for bee stings, spider bites, and snake bites. Now you guys have poisonous snakes and spiders down here, don't you? Yeah or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. This would be a really good resource for people to have. And we know of a family, I don't know them personally, I think you do. They created a brown recluse spider bite kit. In it was charcoal and the pads to apply it and instructions. That was it. And that kit supports
Like 3 to 4 families. Because they put it
really
in,
works.
because they put on this really cool fancy label and say this is your really high-tech brown recluse spider bite kit.
Yeah.
And it's just charcoal.
And depending on what you have, you change the poultice every 10 minutes for 1 hour. And then you change it, that's for bee sting. You change the poultice every 30 minutes for 8 hours for a snake bite. And you change the spider, thank you. You change the poultice every 10 to 15 minutes until swelling and pain are gone for snake bites. So this is really important. These natural remedies work. It won't work if you get a snake bite and you put one on and you leave it on there for a day.
Or if you decide to wait for hours upon hours upon hours and then use
Right, everything's rapid. And so there's pictures. There's pictures in here about why we do hydrotherapy. Heat brings blood to the area, cold chases it away. When the blood comes to the area, it brings oxygen, and when it goes away, it takes waste. And so it's helping our body rid of inflammation and disease.
You want to do the charcoal so we can close
Yeah.
it? I just don't want it to dump over.
Okay. So I'm going to start with a dry cup. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of charcoal in. Again, you can take these natural remedies and you can make, just say make 10 or 15 charcoal poultices up and put them in the freezer. We have a dear friend who she goes out and she chops wood and she saws up trees. And she went through a bee's nest one day and she came in and she had bee stings all over her. And we had the charcoal poultices in the freezer. So we just pulled them out, started putting them on, and so that was really nice.
While she's making that up, I'll tell you a really simple remedy. Whenever you start feeling like you're coming down with something, now this is the very, 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 very beginning, when you start getting a scratchy throat or you start getting a headache or just feeling like,
Okay, just one
Sorry.
second, hold. This is psyllium. You probably all heard of making a charcoal poultice with oatmeal or with flaxseed, right? I don't care for either one of them. If I don't have psyllium, I will use the other.
Because they work, this is just a lot easier.
And they don't, and you can even make it with just water. Charcoal is very messy, charcoal stains. If you use psyllium, it is not messy and it does not stain, and you can put it directly on the skin. It's very clean to use. I put probably 1/4 the amount of psyllium as I use charcoal. And they both have pulling power. They're both a jelly-like substance.
We use a little different amounts depending on it's not a rocket science, but generally it's like 2 parts to 1 part. But one thing that's nice with the psyllium, I mean, obviously you're not going to put the charcoal poultice on something white or something colored because the color can go to it. But it forms more of a jelly substance, and so it doesn't crumble. It doesn't break. If you do it with oats, it's a mess. If you do it with flaxseed, it can be pretty messy too, but it's better. When you do it with psyllium,
It's amazing.
it's amazing. It's like a gel, and you can peel it off, and it's just like all stays in one piece, and you don't have to worry about it breaking off in the night or getting stuck in the bed and staining everything. And psyllium has a very, very strong pulling power as well. You can actually even just make psyllium poultices if you want to draw things out. So we have now been using psyllium and charcoal for a while, and it's great. So you basically, we stir all the dry ingredients together, and then we add enough water in order to get the consistency that we want. Generally, I will use hot water because it helps to bring out the pulling component of it.
I'm going to pass this around when you're done with it. Please bring it up and I'll make it into a poultice. But I want you to see the consistency of it.
So you can see the consistency. My mom was having some liver issues, and so I would actually make one up that covered her whole abdominal area every evening. So we had an island in our kitchen at our old home, and it looked like one massive, huge poultice because I would just pour it on, and I just pour out this jelly-like charcoal poultice mixture, and I would put that on her every evening.
When people OD on drugs in the hospital, they give them charcoal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. It really, really works. The what? The liver. Yeah, you can put it on, it'll draw toxins out of the liver.
Oh, yeah, you better go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you have people who have liver issues, kidney issues, those types of things, you can make charcoal poultices to actually put on the area, and it will help.
There's a lady a nurse worked in a hospital and a person took too much Tylenol. Everybody knows today that children shouldn't have Tylenol. Tylenol destroys your liver. And this nurse knew that, and she put a charcoal poultice on this woman's liver. And as I understand it, it's the only thing that saved her life.
Okay, so the simple remedy that you can do when you start feeling something coming on is take an 8-ounce cup of water. I don't think that. What?
That's 8 ounces.
An 8-ounce. Okay, you take an 8-ounce cup of water and you drink 1 cup every 10 minutes for 1 hour. Okay, so you see that 1 8-ounce cup of water every 10 minutes for 1 hour. And what that does is it just washes your body out. And it will generally flush your body. And this is one that we tend to forget about. Yep, so 8-ounce cup of water every 10 minutes for 1 hour. That's for if you're ever feeling like you're coming down with something, but it has to be right at the very, very beginning because it just like washes your body out, cleans it out. And we've had several people try this when we've been doing seminars and presentations, and they come back to like, I've not been getting enough sleep. I started feeling like I was coming down with something, just water. And I did this, and I feel fine today. I was like, wow, praise the Lord, that's great. It's one we often forget about for some reason. Another one is, how many of you guys have ever done hot and cold showers? Do you guys get cold water down here? Yes. Okay, you do. Because in some warm places, well, maybe I should turn on your cold water when I shower tomorrow and see how cold it gets. And then I can let you know if you really get cold water. We in Michigan get cold. We get cold water. And so what we like to do is oftentimes, if we're not feeling well, you have anything going on, we'll do hot and cold showers. And hot and cold showers, it's the same thing that you do with hot and cold on any part of your body that is inflamed or that is achy or anything. It basically exercises your whole entire body because you do 3 minutes hot, as hot as you can stand it without it burning you. You don't want it to feel like you're being burned because then it has an ulterior effect and it's a negative impact. So you do 3 minutes hot in the shower and you do 30 seconds cold in the shower, and you do as cold as you can stand. Now, you don't want, generally when we stand in the shower, we stand and it's like facing us right here. But you want it to hit everywhere. So what I do in the shower, it actually helps to pass the time, is I turn around and I'm counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm just turning around and turning around. I'm like, okay, how long is this going to be over? Now the hot isn't so bad, but the cold is like, how fast can I turn to make myself warmer? And it works. If you're doing it for health, because you're not feeling well, 3 rotations, always end on cold. When you get out of the shower, dry your feet up, put socks on real quick so that you can make sure, because your pores are now open, but you want to make sure you don't catch a cold. But if you're doing it for sleep, if you have a hard time with sleeping, do 7 rotations. It'll knock you out. 3 minutes hot, 30 seconds cold. I am going to test how cold your water actually gets here to see if you guys really do have cold water. When I've been in some of the islands, I try it and I'm thinking, you guys don't know what cold is? This is not cold. Yes, dear? Oh, just a second. I was asking Nalani, but just a second. What's your question? Yes, you.
Do you finish it with cold water?
You finish with cold. You always finish with cold because it closes off the pores. It doesn't, you might think, oh, that sounds like torture, but after you've done hot for that long, the cold actually starts to feel refreshing. And you can withstand more hotter, and you can withstand it colder. Nalani, were you going to share something, sweetie? Why don't you come up here and you can share? Because I don't know what you're referring to, honey. I did that. You must have stepped out, honey. Well, you can do that for a headache too. The water, she was basically commenting that if you're having a headache, you can do the 10 cups or a cup of water every 10 minutes for an hour as well.
Actually, what we really like to encourage people to do if you're having a headache is to do a hot foot bath. Do people know what a hot foot bath is? No? Oh, very good. We'll be there in just a moment. Hold on to that thought.
So the hot and cold shower, you want to do that. So you start on hot, you always end on cold, close off the pores, and then you dry off briskly, and then you make sure that you go get in bed. The resting time period after treatments is critical. So you need to rest for at least a half an hour. So you don't do anything so that your body can actually rest and have the healing propensities.
Okay, now we're done. Okay, hot foot bath. So the hot foot bath basically pulls blood from your head down to your feet. And when you're having a headache, you usually have too much blood circulating in your head. So you can do a hot foot bath with someone serving you, and you can do a hot foot bath by yourself if you don't have anyone to help you. And, oh, excellent. So the hot foot bath that you can do all by yourself is sit on the edge of your bathtub, and you can pull hot water in the bathtub, keep your feet in the hot water for about 20 minutes, keep ice on your head, and keep drinking lots of water. Lots and lots of water. You'll sweat. And then, oh, you have a picture? Oh, excellent. Is there a screen?
I don't know how, can you guys see this? You can see that? Okay, what I did when I was in Barbados is we wanted to show visuals for the hot foot bath. And so as my mom talks you through it, then I will actually show pictures to correlate with it and the different stages of what you do.
See, she's sitting here on a chair with a sheet. And she's dressed because she's doing this to look pretty during the presentation. Oh, he'll put it up for you. But she has her feet in a bucket, in a little one. And then you bring, you will do the serving a person first. So she sits there, you pray, again you pray always with each treatment. And then you wrap them up nicely in the towel or the sheet so that they don't get a chill. Go ahead.
You want to make sure that you do it very tight around the neck, not to where you're cutting off circulation, but so that no air gets through because you want all of the hot air to stay in the treatment area.
Yes. And then we have tea kettle, and we keep our water hot there. But you started out with basically faucet water, because you can usually get that hot enough where they can tolerate it. And then she's actually wrapping her in another layer here. So you're wrapped really, really well, and you do quite a bit of sweating in this treatment. So you're going to want to wear something that you can, when you're finished, you'll take off, dry off, maybe get in the shower, rinse off quickly, and then get into bed and you'll launder those clothes. You won't stay in those. And so you take the hot water from the teapot and you open up as small an area as you can, and then you put your hand between them and you, and then you pour the hot water from the tea kettle in the pan there that their feet are in. But you want to be very careful that you do not burn them. This is not a treatment, I repeat, not a treatment for anyone with type 2 diabetes that would have some neuropathy in their feet, because they don't have a good sense of feeling, and it's very easily for those individuals to get burned. And so we do not recommend doing this on anyone with type 2 diabetes with neuropathy. And then you just, after you put the water in there, and you ask them to take it as hot as you can take it, and then you cover them back up, and then a few minutes later you go back with the tea kettle and you put more hot water in the basin for about 20 minutes. Now we have a Russian steam tent that we make it a little more intense treatment, and we put that over them. It's a big cape that closes around the neck, and then we actually plug in a little hot water, I don't know what you call it, but it heats about 2 cups of water, and you plug it in, what do you call it? Pardon me?
Electric kettle.
That's it, yes, and you plug that in, and it lets steam up. So they've got now the steam coming up, and they now have their feet in this hot water. It is an excellent treatment. If anyone struggles from insomnia, you can't sleep, and you're just really having a difficult time or a lot of stress and anxiety, this Russian steam tent is amazing. And the hot foot bath. And so then, at the end of the 20 minutes, you always end hydrotherapy treatments on cold. That's right. Because you want to stop the treatment, you want to close the pores, so you take a pitcher of ice water. And you take the person, you get down on your knees beside them, you have a towel on your lap, you put their feet, lift them out of the basin, and then you pour the ice water over their feet. And they squeal just a little bit. And then you wipe their feet off really dry, put socks on their feet immediately, and then send them up, all wrapped, because you don't want them to get a chill. And they take off the wet, sweaty clothes, jump in the shower, and then with this treatment, this is quite an intense treatment, you need to go to bed. For at least an hour, you need to rest so that your body is recovering. And it's amazing what just manipulating the circulation will do for getting rid of all sorts of, see, there she's got her feet up, holding them with both of her hands. And Laura, what are you about to do here? Are you just starting, or?
I'm trying to find a microphone. So basically, this is just the beginning. This is when we were just putting the water in. Did you tell them that you always want to test the water?
Test the water with your elbow first, because your hands are able to take more heat than their feet are able to take the heat.
So then here what I'm doing is I now have feet in and I'm covering it with the blanket or with the sheet so that all of the heat goes up and doesn't go out.
Oh, no. And then you'll have a bucket or a bowl with ice water next to you. You'll have a nice little washcloth, or we call this a mitten. And then you put it in here and you wring it out, and then you wipe off their face and back of their neck, because they're going to really feel refreshed when you do this. Some people get to feel rather stressed during this treatment. It's very hot treatment. Yep, see, there's Laura wiping her face.
And she's got a glass of water, making sure they stay very hydrated.
Yep, we talked about that. Yep, there you go, making sure. This is an excellent remedy, because you get to serve the person. They can't do this by themselves. As you can see, their hands are both bound underneath the sheet there. There's nothing that they can do except sit. You pray with them, you talk with them, you encourage them, and you might have some soft hymns playing, instrumental playing in the background to have a nice atmosphere, environment for them. And see how Laura's got her hand there? Remember we talked about your hand between their feet so you don't burn them with the water? There's the pitcher of water. And there's the ice water. Yes, and actually, it feels kind of good. Like when you finish that hot and cold contrast shower, Laura's right. Every time you go hot, you can get a little hotter. And then every time you go cold, you can get a little colder. And it really feels good. And look how happy they are. Wonderful. All right, let's see. Thank you, Laura. I really like those visuals. How many here have done fomentation treatments? With a fomentation pad or with towels? Nobody. Yes. Very good. Pastor, you've done them. For years we did them with towels. So it's possible to do with towels. But now, probably for about 8 years, we've had these fomentation pads. They're made by a really wonderful lady in Tennessee. And they're actually on our webpage. We encourage people to get a natural remedy kit, which includes 5 pads in your kit. You want to be ready to not only help your family, but help those in your community and in your church family as well. And I'll share, since none of you have these, I'll share with you how to do it with towels. You take the towel and you take a bowl of water and you sprinkle the water on the towel. All of you have microwaves?
Yes.
Who has microwaves? The only thing I use a microwave for are fomentation pads. I don't use a microwave to cook my food in because the microwave heats the fat in the food by friction and it destroys the nutrition in the food. So I eat my food to get nutrition, so I don't put it in a microwave. So we, for a long time, had our microwave in the garage. But a microwave is very handy for hydrotherapy. So you sprinkle the towels with water until they're not quite damp all over, but they're moist. Then you roll them up tight and put them in the microwave. It's been so long since I've done this, I can't even tell you how long to do this. I am very sorry. I would say, pardon me?
About 7 minutes.
Thank you. About 7 minutes. And if I do anything wrong with this towel thing, you tell me, okay? Because I do it with this now. So then you take your towel out and you have other towels. And when you take it out, you unwrap it and it's steamy. And then you cover it. Just pretend this is a towel.
You have a picture behind you now.
Oh, yes. And that picture is from this book. So here's your hot towel, and you need to be careful, watch with your hands. You open it up, and then you wrap it in the other towel, and then you fold it, and then you go upstairs, or to the bedroom, wherever the person is in, and you can see how the bed or the table is lined. We put a shower curtain liner right on top of the bed, and then we put a sheet and a blanket over it so the person is laying on top of all that, but you want something that's going to protect the bed from water. And so that's underneath the individual. Then we take, you have, for a really good treatment, you have their feet in hot water. If you have 5 pads, you can use one of these to put their feet on instead of the water. You have one of these fomentation pads on the spine that stays there the duration of all of the exchange of treatments. You have ice, a cold compress on the head. You have a glass of water next to them. And then you go up, you've prayed with them, and you put this fomentation pad, and they've got another towel, or 2 or 3. Yeah, fold here because this is hot. Steam is very hot. And then you place this on the chest. And then you cover it. So you again keep the heat, the steam inside. This is excellent for pneumonia. Excellent for bronchitis. Excellent for even You know, they did fomentations when they had these tuberculosis and flu epidemics that were killing people left and right.
This is
Any
some-
respiratory
This is
condition.
a treatment that you really need to be in a lot of communication with the person.
Yep.
You can't just do it and leave, because you have to make sure that, number one, they're feeling it, and number two, that they're not burning.
Right. You see Laura's collarbone right here? Very delicate, and you don't have much flesh there to protect it. And sometimes people's ribs right in here are kind of bony, and so this is where they'll burn first, right here and right here. And so you can put your hand up in there under it.
Or you can put an extra layer.
You can put an extra layer, yeah. And we always have ladies treating ladies and men treating men for these treatments. And then you do this, you leave it on for, is it 3 minutes?
3 minutes, and let me
Yeah.
tell you, you're running.
Yeah, this is, you need 2 or 3 people to do this treatment.
Do you remember?
One person.
Do you remember? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
When I read that a lot of people don't want to do natural remedies because of the work, it's a blessing to serve, but it is work. But it works.
Yeah, but this is a very effective treatment. And then you leave it on for 3 minutes. Then remember, you've got your bowl of ice water here. Take this cloth, put it in the ice water, wring it out. You take this off the chest, and very discreetly you lift it up. And then you take the ice cloth and you put it in and you rub here, all over the chest. You're chasing away the blood. You brought the blood there with the heat. The steam is penetrating deep into the lungs, and then you chase it away with the cold. Then you do that again. You can do that for a round of 3 to 7 times.
Depending on what you're doing it for.
Yes.
And then you always, and on cold, and you make sure that you dry off all of the areas. You rub them down wherever the fomentation was, like the one on the back. You rub it down with cold, you dry it off, and then you take out everything that was wet. You dry off the front, take off everything that was wet, and then put a shirt on them. Make sure that they are dry and warm, and then they need to go to a bed for at least an hour.
Definitely. Okay, Brother Ed.
I just want to say, this as a testimony, several weeks ago, I had several months ago, I had a very severe herniated disc, and I couldn't walk. I was laying on the ground, I couldn't walk, and it was this treatment that actually got me back on my feet.
Oh, amen. Praise
And what
God.
we can do, if you give Sister Giselle your email addresses, I actually have our whole hydrotherapy presentation step by step with everything that you can do, which this is a picture of. But the PowerPoint vanished, but I have the PDF format of it that I can send to people. So if you would like it, and all of the notes from our presentations that we've been giving, please make sure Sister Giselle has your email addresses, and after we are done, I will send you the information that we have.
Now let me share a little bit of the beauty of the fomentation pads versus the towels. The fomentation pads you soak in water for 20 minutes. You wring it out as best you can, and I always like to have somebody stronger than me because my arms aren't very strong, and wring it out as thoroughly as you can. You wrap it tight. You take, any of you who do canning in those big canning pots, and you put like a strainer upside down in the bottom of it, and you put 4 or 5 of these wrapped up fomentation pads in the pan, and you try to stand them on end.
I actually like doing it a little loose so that the heat more evenly gets through this. I do it for my mom, and I found that when I did them tight, the heat wasn't so evenly gone through because I always used to do them tight, but when I did them a little looser, if I could, the heat more evenly came through. Now my personal testimony with these is that I don't think I've ever had fomentations done on myself, but I've done them on many people. And when we had towels, we had a quad level house, and the bedrooms were on different levels than the kitchen, and I got my stair exercise with these because with every time I was hoping the towel would keep the heat for 3 minutes and still be hot, consistently hot. How long can these last?
Oh my, these probably keep the heat for 10 minutes.
I can do just about 3 rotations with one towel, or with one of these pads.
They keep the heat, but it's best because the steam isn't so much there after about 6 minutes. But they are far superior than your towels are. They're very dense. You can come up and you can feel this. And then when you take it out, you need to take these out with tongs. There's no using your hands.
They will fry your hands.
And this is a wool blanket that you wrap them with. Wool will allow the steam to go through. Now we still use regular towels as a barrier on the skin to protect it. And we even use more towels with these because the heat is very intense. And this is for a child's chest or for an adult's sinus. I think that's about it. It's
Yep.
5 after 9.
All right, so we will take questions afterwards. So we'll invite Pastor to come up and pray. We do have some things, if you guys want some supplies or some of the materials. You guys just about bought us out of everything on Sunday. But we do have some things left if you would like. We'll be doing those up here. And we'll invite.
I'm not sure where Pastor wants to do that. I don't know.
No, we're not going to, I'm sorry, we will not do it in the sanctuary. We will do it out there. I'm sorry, I forgot I was in the sanctuary thinking we were still in the school. So we will do it out there. We will set up a little table, and then we can do the things out there. And then tomorrow night, you can come up, Pastor. Tomorrow night we will have our presentation again, and Lord willing, we'll be able to be in here and start in time. Thank you so much all for your flexibility, being willing to go sit in the little kid chairs over in the school and then come back over here. Thank you.
Amen, saints. It is a blessing that, we can exercise the patience. And that's not easy at times, and sometimes we have difficult situations. But I'm thankful that we're here today, that we can learn all these simple remedies, things that you can do for yourself, things that you have in your home, possibly garlic, onion, towels, and so forth. Please, let us not take this for granted. What this teaches me is that even at times there are inconveniences, there's coming a time when we won't be able to really gather this passion, to really hear the Word of God. Amen? And truly, so now God is preparing us so that truly we can be able, even now, to grasp as much as possible. That when we don't have the privilege, we will have it up here, and most of all, it will be a part of us. So I want to thank once again the presenters just for their patience too. I want to thank you all, and definitely tomorrow we'll start on time. By the grace of God, amen. And so let's have a word of prayer. Kind of loving Father, indeed we are so thankful, Lord, for these simple remedies. Lord, we know that it takes work, yet still, Lord, nature's way is the most effective way. And as we work in harmony with your will, dear God, your promise will result. For you have promised that you are the Lord that healeth us. So, Lord, help us to be intelligent in using these things so that, Father, we can effect the most to work in harmony with nature. Thank you for these simple treatments that anybody can do. We need not have a doctor as often as we call it life, if we'll just be intelligent towards these things. Thank you, Lord, for those who are willing to stay back so that truly we can learn and that we can be able to implement these things when it is needed. Thank you for your love. Dismiss us even now to your presence and bring us back safely tomorrow on time. In Jesus' name. Amen.